They say time heals everything, but sometimes time just teaches you how to hide the scars. 15 years, that's how long it had been since my mother walked out of my life, leaving me, a scared 13-year-old, standing in a hospital hallway next to my father, who was fighting cancer. She didn't even look back. No apology, no goodbye. Just silence. My name is Julia West, and this is the story of how my mother came back into my life, not to make things right, but to take what she thought she deserved. I was 28, living in Seattle, working as a systems analyst for a data security firm. My life was finally stable. I had a small apartment, a good salary, and a few friends who actually cared. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. Then, one quiet Friday evening, I heard a knock on my R. It was soft, almost unsure. I wasn't expecting anyone.
It was Christmas morning. The air smelled like cinnamon and coffee. The kind of morning that's supposed to feel warm, safe, full of love. But for me, it was the day everything shattered. My name's Ethan, I'm 24, and that was the morning my dad looked me straight in the eye and said, "Pack your bags, you're done here." No anger in his voice, just cold final words. Mom stood behind him, silent, holding a cup of coffee like she couldn't wait for me to leave. I remember staring at the Christmas tree, the lights flickering, the gifts underneath it still wrapped. I wanted to ask why. Why now? Why Christmas? But I already knew the answer. Dad had always seen me as the failure. My brother Ryan was the golden child. Corporate job, fancy car, always the one invited to stand next to Dad in family photos. Me, I was the disappointment, the one who took a gap year that turned into two. The one chasing dreams of running my own business, instead of getting a real job. What they didn't know was that my business had just started taking off. I'd kept it quiet, built a tech repair startup from my tiny basement room. Every bill in the house that was mysteriously paid early, that was me. I'd been covering their utilities, mortgage interest, even groceries sometimes, all anonymously, through an auto payment I'd set up. I wanted to prove I could support them before they ever asked me to. But that morning, they didn't care about any of that. "Ethan," Dad said, "you're lazy. You don't contribute. You just stay in that room and waste electricity." I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just nodded, said, "All right," and went upstairs. I packed my bags in silence, my laptop, my camera, a few clothes. I glanced around the room one last time. The little space I'd turned into my lab, my escape, my dream. Then I took one last step and slid a small white envelope under my pillow. I didn't write anything on it, just left it there. When I walked out the front door, snow was falling. I didn't say goodbye. No one stopped me. I stayed at a friend's apartment for a few days. Didn't check my phone much. Until Christmas evening. 27 missed calls. Most from Mom. One voicemail from Dad. His voice was shaking. "Ethan, son, please call me back. I didn't know." Didn't know what, exactly? I smiled, hit play again, and listened to him almost crying. That's when I knew they'd found the envelope. Inside, it was a copy of the house deed transfer, something I'd arranged quietly months earlier. Turns out my business had done well enough for me to pay off their mortgage completely. I'd put their home in their names, free and clear, as a surprise Christmas gift. But that wasn't all. I'd also left proof of every payment I'd made over the last 2 years. Every bill, every loan, every expense, signed off and paid by me. Wrote one short note inside that envelope. "You thought I was useless. But even the useless one was keeping your world together. Merry Christmas, Ethan." Dad told me later that he found it while cleaning my room. He said his hands started shaking, that he had to sit down. Mom started crying, realizing they'd thrown out the one person who'd been quietly taking care of them. They wanted me to come back home that night, but I didn't. I needed them to feel what it's like to lose something you didn't value. A few months passed. My business kept growing. I moved into a downtown apartment, hired 2 people, even landed a partnership with a big tech store. Meanwhile, my parents kept trying to reach me. Birthday messages, "We're proud of you," texts, all the things I wanted to hear years ago. But I didn't reply, until one day, I got another voicemail. It was Dad again. This time, he wasn't crying. He sounded broken. "I saw your interview on TV, Ethan. You said you built everything from a basement. That was our basement. I'm sorry I made you feel like you didn't belong in your own home. I paused the message halfway through. Part of me wanted to forgive him. The other part, the part that remembered the look on his face that Christmas morning, stayed silent. 2 weeks later, I drove back to the old house. It was smaller than I remembered. Dad was outside, cleaning the snow off the porch. He looked older, softer, almost afraid to look at me. We didn't hug. We just stood there in silence, until he said, "We kept your room the same." I smiled slightly. "You can keep it. It's yours now. Remember?" He nodded, tears filling his eyes. For once, he didn't try to talk over me. He just said, "Thank you for what you did, and I'm sorry for what we didn't." As I drove away, I realized something. Revenge doesn't always have to be loud. Sometimes the best revenge is success and silence. I never wanted to make them suffer. I just wanted them to see. And when they finally did, that was enough. They threw me out on Christmas morning, but I gave them something they'd never forget. Not anger, not revenge, just the truth, wrapped in a white envelope.